around, don't disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started, it's the hardest. Talk around, don't disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah,
get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, and this art he is king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back. Yeah.
Ooh. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I'm your host, the hardest part of the ring, also known as Kyle. How we doing? How are you doing? I feel like it's always all about me. How are you doing at home? How are you doing listening? How is it? Did you watch the big game this weekend? Those teams really threw that pigskin down the field, and I mean the offense, the defense defended, and then really it just came down to who could put more points on the board. I think is really what it came down to. So good game. Rihanna looked absolutely scrumptious, I guess, as much as a pregnant as much as a pregnant woman can be. Does that mean to say? I fucks with Rihanna. Pretty good. I mean, hey, Valentine's Day was yesterday, right? Did you give your loved one a nice, loving, whatever the fuck, flowers? Did you give them some chocolate to have some good old-fashioned lactose farts at night? Or is that just me? Or did you just celebrate it as a free spirit, single, ready to mingle? I know there's some people out there. Nothing wrong with that at all. People suck. So, nothing wrong with being single. But hey, don't you worry. The hardest part of the ring's here. Gonna shoot an arrow right into your pee hole for some WWE Armageddon 2002. The end is here, folks. The end is here. The end of 2002. Final WWE pay-per-view of this year. Probably the last... probably the last time I'll ever touch this year with this podcast, unless I go and review some of the old TNA shows, which slim pickings on there. But good show here, Armageddon 2002. Well, some parts of it, some parts of it were a little. I'll put it this way: we got lots of HLA on this show. We also got major debuts, including the debut. Actually, I'm not going to say it. There's a huge debut. It's kind of early on in the podcast. We'll touch on it. It's really massive. So I think I'm just going to let the podcast speak for itself. But we also get the pay-per-view singles match debuts of Batista and A-Train, which is... so we're kind of gearing up for... because 2002, right? It's been a year of transition overall. But this show, they really hammer it home, trying new stuff. A-Train, a new gimmick for Albert. And then, boy, howdy, we're going to be talking a lot about Batista for the next few years on this podcast. So lots to get into there. You got Eddie versus Benoit, which is always a treat. Couple world title matches. One is pretty much what the whole show is based on. That being the 3 Stages of Hell match between Shawn Michaels and Triple H. And we also got Kurt Angle versus Big Show, which is lots of shenanigans afoot there. Again, I think the podcast will speak for itself. But solid show. By the way, keep an eye out on my YouTube page. Well, first of all, subscribe if you have not already. Also, give the video a like if you're watching on the tubes. But I'm going to be doing a tier list eventually for the year of 2002 for WWE, much similar to how I did it with 2001. I don't know if it'll be a live stream this time or not, but follow me on all the socials so you could be kept abreast of when this will be. And hey, if you like this era of wrestling, you like early 2000s WWE/WWF, you like the Attitude Era, you like the Ruthless Aggression Era, if you want to hear me recap it all for you, well, daddy or mommy, I guess, I got you. Go to apronbump.com and you can go to the episodes tab at the top and you can filter to whatever promotion, whatever era you'd like to hear me recap. You could select Ruthless Aggression Era, and that'll filter it down to all of the Ruthless Aggression Era shows that I have covered thus far, all in chronological order. Binge away, tweedle your nips, and call me Sally. Do all of those things. Check it out. And you know what you should also check out? You know whose nipples you should also tweedle? Is BC Hunter from the Wrestling with the War podcast. He was my guest today on this episode, and we had a good old time. Love BC. I'd marry him if he was in the same country as me, but unfortunately, he's up there, up north. So, yeah, go check out the... Sorry, I spiraled into like a romantic fantasy about BC Hunter. But go check him out. Him and his co-host Jay, they do good stuff over there at Wrestling with the War is their audio podcast in which they cover the Monday Night Wars. So they cover all the Nitros, the Monday Night Raws, the pay-per-views. They started from the beginning, from the first Nitro. They actually kind of recently started. So now is a good time to hop on that train. A really, really fun podcast to listen to. Just a couple of pleasant boys talking about wrestling, and very unique how they take their approach on it, and very entertaining. So go check them out, and check them out on YouTube as well, which is under the banner of their former name of their podcast, Wrestling with the Truth. And that's kind of where they touch more on the current product and kind of just whatever tickles their pickle in the moment. They do a lot of live streams. They're really, really fun time. They do a lot of collabs and all that stuff. Check out all their info in the description below. Follow them on all the socials. And yeah, with that, the end of this intro is here, right? Fuck off. WWE Armageddon 2002 with myself and BC from the Wrestling with the War podcast. There you see that sweet Canadian mug. Right, Canadian, right?
Canadian, yeah. Where are you at anyways?
Virginia.
Ah, okay. For lovers.
Not around here. Not around these parts. Virginia's for rednecks and people stabbing each other sometimes. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, you could say it's like Armageddon or something around here, right?
Is it? Well, yeah, you could use that reference, couldn't you?
Yeah, you might. I mean, I don't know if I would, but yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, how's your podcast going? Like, you guys just transitioned to Wrestling with the War. How's that been going?
Yeah, we tried to like basically, as I think we called it, niche down and just focus on something. We were just kind of all over the place, and I don't know. It just people liked it, but it just didn't feel like we had any direction, and you're kind of wondering what you're going to talk about each week. So this way, it's nice.
Yeah.
We know what we're going into, and we're having fun with it. It's pretty cool to go back and watch the stuff. There's some crap, and then there's some good stuff. So it seems like we're getting a few more listeners though because of it. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, because you guys are going like chronologically, right?
Yeah, right now we're doing that. We'll see how that goes. I mean, if it gets like super dull, but we should be good. We're heading into 96, so there's a few things that happened in 96 that should keep people interested. But
Right.
95 is pretty brutal right now, but we're coming up on Halloween Havoc 95, and you know all about that.
Listen, you guys were a lot kinder to In Your House 3 than I was. So hey, maybe you guys just have a more positive mindset, because you guys are like, yeah, Sid versus fucking, what was it, Henry O'Godwin? Was that a match?
Yeah,
you guys like, yeah, it's a pretty good match. Oh, some sitting here like, this match was dog shit. What are you talking about? Sid, like, just, I don't know. Sid is that's the whole thing.
I think we go into it with lowered expectations, so then it's like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was expecting a colonoscopy, but I only got the finger up the ass, right? So
that's true. That is true. But if you're throwing something up there, it might as well be the whole thing. That's what I always say.
It might as well be, yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of colonoscopies, I would have rather had one than watched this show. But no, just kidding. Actually, it wasn't a bad show.
I thought, yeah,
it was pretty good. I mean, I've been watching all these shows from 2002, and I guess first of all, were you watching during this time period?
Oh yes, yeah. I think when I really kind of tuned out was in that 2005-ish, 6-ish era, like when we got into WWECW type of stuff, right? But I was coming off the Attitude Era, 2002. Like one thing was because of watching this, I kind of went back in Wikipedia just to look at, okay, what was happening leading up to it. I was just trying to catch myself up. And I'm like, holy shit, that whole year was just full of just dream matches when you see like the roster that they had in the matches between, it seemed like the SmackDown 6 were putting on a classic in every pay-per-view. But yeah, this was, I after watching this, comparing it to In Your House 3, much better card.
Yeah. So that's what you had. Your bar was in the mud, whereas mine was slightly higher. I mean, because WWE, they're just coming off of Survivor Series 02, which is one of my personal favorite pay-per-views. So maybe I had a high bar going into this. And this show is like, this whole year really is kind of a transition period for WWE. But I feel like this show in particular, like they're just trying shit. Like some of it worked and some of it didn't. But there's a lot of new faces on this show. A lot of I don't know. At some points, though, it felt like they were like stretching for time. Like there were a few segments on here that were like, oh, why am I watching this? But we'll get into that.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Overall thoughts on the show before we, I guess, dive into the individual matches and stuff.
Yeah, overall thoughts. I mean, again, I'm between watching 1995 wrestling at the moment and watching today's wrestling, which, yeah, I know the Bloodline thing has just been amazing. But other than that, I'm kind of down on today's wrestling at the moment. So this was a nice palate cleanser for me, just to see some of my old favorites go at it. I remember that era being kind of crazy as far as the hardcore stuff, but I forgot how physical some of the matches were, like seeing that whole HBK Triple H match. Like even I never loved like a garbage can lid as a weapon, but if there's one match where the garbage can lid shot actually looked like it did some damage, this is the one,
The sound echoed. It was crazy.
And like Shawn, that splat that he did after the ladder dive was just gross.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the era still of the super concrete ring that they used to have for the big guys, but man, like that ring did not sound like it had a lot of give on some of those falls.
Yeah, he didn't really break his fall with his arms or his legs. Like you said, it was just a splat.
It appeared like his face broke the fall, to be quite honest.
There we go. That's something. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this whole show kind of built to that one match, which I guess in a way it's 3 matches in one. But we'll get to it. But yeah, the show opens up. One thing about this era that I loved were its intro packages and just like the overall like atmosphere the pay-per-views had, because it's Armageddon. It's, for all intents and purposes, it's just like an evergreen pay-per-view. It's whatever. There's no gimmicks to it, but they really do a good job at kind of like setting the mystique in the beginning with the what is it, like Hiroshima or something. It's like some plane dropping a bomb. Yeah. And Freddie Blassie, I think, is doing a voiceover. The end.
He did like every voiceover then.
Yeah, he still should. They should still just use his words and just splice something together.
The ghost of Freddie Blassie.
They should just name a pay-per-view "The Ghost of Freddie Blassie," and people would watch it. They've done stupider shows, yeah. And the set too, man. I mean, because the video package at the beginning cuts to the set with like the flames and like the steel walls or whatever you want to call it. I thought it just felt like a pay-per-view, and I feel like that's a lost art today.
I miss the specific sets that they had for certain pay-per-views. It just, you're right, it felt like it was a major event different. Like right now it just feels like another episode of Raw when they do or SmackDown when they do pay-per-view. But that, and then that opening theme song, like the Doors metal version song that they did, the end or whatever, was fantastic.
Jim Johnston, man, his piano was on fire when he was making that song. Miss that guy. But we open up here with actually a pretty good match. Probably, so like in the Raws and SmackDowns leading up to the show, they really built up to the main event and to this opening match. Nothing else really got built, at least substantially, in my opinion. But they were putting a lot of effort in this tag division here, even though you look at these teams and a lot of them are kind of just makeshift teams. So it's a 4-way elimination match for the World Tag Team titles. So your champions, Chris Jericho and Christian, versus the team of Lance Storm and William Regal, versus the team of Booker T and Goldust, versus the newly reunited Dudley Boys. So we're fresh off a Survivor Series where Devon came back and they tried the Reverend Devon thing, which is, again, like to my point, like this is this era where they're just kind of like trying stuff. And they tried splitting the Dudleys up for whatever reason. It just never amounted to much. So they're back together here. Do you have any memories of like their individual singles runs in 02?
I just remember them being brutal. Like at least Devon tried. He did a different gimmick. He was the Reverend Devon or whatever, and he had Deacon Dave as well. But Bubba, like what? He wore a different muscle shirt, and that was it. He still is in the shorts. He's just like, if they had done something like they did with, they had did something like they did with Aces and Eights, like that era of Bubba or something like that, then it would be something different at least. But it just felt like, Bubba left them. When it happened, I thought Bubba was going to be the breakout star for them. Yet it seemed like Devon got the better push for stuff. But I was so confused by, because again, I wasn't watching up to it, but I was trying to look some stuff up. But you have the Un-Americans, which Christian was a part of at one point, but now he's with Jericho. And then, I forgot how much of a dweeb Christian looked like in his gear with the stringy hair and all that stuff back then.
The singlet, not the singlet, but like the tank top. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But other than that, I mean, it was cool seeing Booker T and Golds. I remember them back in the day and how much fun they were as a tag team. And I don't know if you want to talk about the match, but the match was great. I mean, right off the get-go, there seemed to be like a botch on the first pin attempt where Regal, was it Regal?
How do you botch a pin?
I know.
It was amazing. Because
you overshoot a pin with Bubba. Yeah.
His pin was just so intense that he just overshot it, like you said. Because first of all, so there's 4 teams in here. 2 teams get eliminated within like the first 3 minutes, it seemed like. The Dudleys hit 3D onto Lance Storm, I believe, or somebody. Regal makes the blind tag, though. But as Bubba is covering the guy, Lance Storm comes off the top with a leg drop onto Bubba. Regal rolls into the pin, but like you said, it just kind of like turns him over into the where Bubba's on top of him, and you can tell they're like trying to decide, either to go with it or to roll this way or roll this way. It felt like forever they were just monkeying around, holding each other down there. But eventually he pins them and eliminates them. So the Dudleys get eliminated pretty much right off the jump, even though they do their old the waza, the 3D, all that. So they got their greatest hits in, I guess. But pretty much right after that, Goldust just hits a snap power slam onto William Regal for the elimination. And which brings it down to...
I was going to say, that made me think that maybe the botch was really supposed to be Bubba rolling over top and pinning Regal, and that's why they had to get rid of Regal pretty quickly. And maybe the Dudleys were supposed to last longer, but that could be my only explanation for how they botched the pinfall. Like, I've never seen that before.
I literally think Regal's just like, but a pin, you gotta make it look tight. And it was just too tight. And
are you Goldberg?
He's red. But But yeah, it just brings it down to Goldust and Booker T versus the Chris's, I guess, which leads me to wonder maybe it should have just been a singles match against of those two teams, because if they actually had a pretty lengthy run here with just these two here. I mean, maybe at least 10 minutes or so. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it was because didn't the previous pay-per-view have a one-on-one match between these two teams or something like that? Or I think I
It
read
might
it
have
was
been
a
on
couple
Raw or
days.
something.
Yeah. But yeah, it just
Yeah.
felt like that's the match that should have been from the get-go. It's like they were just trying to get everybody on the card. You know, one thing I've complained about on watching 95 Raw is just Lawler and his crazy conversations that he has and the references. But I did pop when when Jericho had the walls of Jericho on book and he's like, tap out, sucker. So it was
Lawler has some good, because like you, I flip flop between this era and the new generation, and Lawler's way more tolerable here than in the mid 90s. But that eventually went downhill at some point for him. But
well, we had JR to reel him in basically at this point.
Yeah, Vince is not a guy for banter. He's he doesn't know how to react to jokes. Like Lawler will say like in 95, Lawler will say like some joke, and then Vince will be like, "Oh, what? Well, anyway," and then they just keep going. He's like, "Come on, Vince." 1, 2, he got him. Oh no, he didn't. That's what the show needed. It needed Vince on comms, I think.
It needed, and Jesse.
Oh, of course. Of course. I think he's busy. He's governor at this point, isn't he?
2002? He might have been. Yeah.
I don't know. He's just always the governor to me.
98 he wasn't he? Because that's when he did the refereeing for the...
Right. I think it was 99, maybe?
I don't know if his term might have been still going. I don't know.
Who knows?
Should have moved on to president.
He should have. Well, it's not too late. 2024 is coming. But Book Dust versus the Canadians here. So pretty good little back and forth between these two teams. You got Booker T and Goldust. They do like a heart attack kind of deal, but Booker T does his spin kick instead. Goldust misses a crossbody and just goes flying to the outside. Jericho takes the flag, which I think is the Lance Storm's flag, and just hits him with it. But eventually Booker T gets the hot tag. And really the whole story here going into this is that Goldust thinks he's the weak link of the team. Booker is like, no, dog, you're not. But I feel like this match kind of just solidified that, because Goldust is just getting his ass kicked. I mean, I guess he pinned Regal. That's something. But like Goldust just got his ass kicked and had to tag in Booker for the save. But Booker has a damn good hot tag. He's just cleaning house. Does his like a roll up out of the corner for 2. There's a lot of good false finishes in this match. I don't know, any spots particular stick out to you in like this ending stretch of it here?
Well, as far as the weak link stuff, it would help if they had to mention that a little bit on commentary. If they had to brought it up once or twice about Goldust being the weak link. I feel like Lawler only touched on it about 50 times during the match, but
that was a theme throughout this whole show. Is Lawler? All right, here's this one word. I'm going to say it over and over again. But yeah, so you hammered that home for sure. But
yeah, when you mentioned the Goldust missed crossbody, like he went flying out of the ring, and this is the era when they had photographers around the ring, and I thought for sure somebody's getting crushed by him.
I don't know how they didn't.
And Booker was over big time, and then of course he went on in WrestleMania to fight for the title, but yeah, he was over big time at this. Like you could tell, he was
red hot,
the main attraction of this match.
Yeah, because like you said, he goes on to WrestleMania, and like this is kind of like the build up to that. It's like the justification for that is because of how hot he is, and definitely carrying the team here. But yeah, missile drop kick from Booker off the top rope, spin-a-rooney, scissors kick to Christian or to Jericho, but Christian distracts the ref. Goldust takes out Christian. But Booker T can only get a 2 count. That was kind of the running theme here, is that Booker would do a big move, somebody would distract the ref, and then Goldust would take that guy out. So he was kind of like an accessory to this whole thing, which I guess that's teamwork, I suppose. Jericho with a belt shot, lion salt to Booker T for a 2 count. Jericho attempts another belt shot, but gets countered, and Booker T hits the bookend for the win. So Goldust, Booker T, new tag team champions. Pretty cool moment here. I mean, Goldust and Booker T were well into their run. They've done all the fun skits and the odd couple stuff, and I think Christian and Chris Jericho were solid heels here. So all in all, I thought this was a pretty good opener.
Would this era for Christian and Chris Jericho be pre-ass cream or post-ass cream?
Ooh. Shit. Because they did the thing where they like were in the shower, and then I think the Dudleys like stole their towels. No, this is right after ass cream. This is right after ass cream. That was in the same segment. Yeah. That's how you look at Christian and Chris Jericho, pre and post ass cream. Two different eras, vastly different eras.
Yeah, exactly, vastly. In considering Jericho was the undisputed champ like 6 months prior to this or whatever.
Yeah, man, that was Christian and Jericho. They're just like, hey, you guys aren't doing anything. Be a tag team, I guess. Which they gave them something to do. They were champions for a bit, but and Jericho would go on to face Shawn at WrestleMania, and Christian is you'd get a haircut soon, I guess. But yeah.
He'd go to TNA. He'd do all right.
yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of this matchup would pretty soon. But but after that, we get it cuts to a flashback to Heat earlier in the night. We get a huge debut here, BC. The debut of Josh Matthews is backstage with Brock Lesnar, the newest member of the SmackDown announce team, I guess. He's trying to get a word with Brock Lesnar because Brock's not on the card tonight. But you wouldn't think it with how the WWE title match was booked. But Josh is like, hey, Brock, are you going to be in Kurt's corner tonight? Because tonight it's going to be Big Show defending the title against Kurt Angle. And Brock's like, I plan to make an impact. So I guess Brock's also going to TNA. Fun fact.
He's going to TNA. Yeah, exactly.
Look at that. Kurt. Look at that. Yeah.
All intersects. It all. Do you think that was a rib on Josh? Like, hey, your first interview is going to be with Brock, by the way.
Hey, at least he didn't get thrown through a wall or anything like Matt Hardy did. So.
I know. I forgot about that. That was intense.
No matitude on that boy, or maybe too much. But man, choo-choo. Choo-choo, am I right? We got a pay-per-view debut here of the A-Train versus Edge. So newly repackaged. A-Train's about a month or so into this new name, gimmick, whatever you want to call it. Where do you think this character ranks among all of Prince Albert's aliases?
Yeah, so I remember at the time disliking Matt Bloom a lot as far as this character. I just wasn't an A-Train character, but watching this match, I'm like, they really did him dirty with the whole Tensai, Sweet Tea, Funkadactyls type of gimmick, because in this match, he actually looked pretty damn good, man. Like, he got a lot of offense in. I mean, of course, he's working with Edge, is going to sell like crazy for him, but it seemed like they were trying to put him over as this pretty scary dude, and he moves fast. He knows what he's doing. I thought he looked decent in this. I mean, I was obviously Prince Albert. You didn't really see him for what he could do, but when I think now what he did, like, who did he piss off in the back, and was the job at NXT a makeup for that whole Sweet Tea situation?
Right. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think Matt Bloom super underrated. He had a couple good matches, like in the T and A days with Test. I know there was like a random match with Kane on a random SmackDown that was like incredible. That I still remember. It was like in 2001 at some point. But like whenever he got a chance to shine, he would shine. And like you said, I don't know who he pissed off, because he always got these goofy gimmicks, or was just like a henchman, which he would kind of end up being with this A-Train deal. But
he looked like a beast in this match until that final chair shot on the knee was so weak on Edge. But other than that, and then he took a vicious chair afterwards.
Oof. A couple of vicious chair shots on this show. But that was my thing here. Like with A-Train, like, yeah, he did look like a beast. Like that Baldo bomb was. I always loved the way he like slaps the guy like on his throat when he grabs him and just like slams him. I think like a lot of people do like that move or a variation of that move, but I thought his was always the best.
Yep.
But it felt like A-Train kind of was desperate to get a chair and get himself DQ'd, which is like, you're this big monster. Wouldn't you just like use your size and your girth and your hair to just suffocate this guy? Like, why are you being a chicken shit when you're this big monstrous locomotive fella? I don't know.
Yeah, that
Maybe
didn't
I'm
make a whole
thinking too
lot of
much into it.
sense. Yeah. I mean, you could tell obviously that they were picking Edge to be a star and like they were really trying to make him out to be that.
Yeah.
And you knew the rocket was going on him pretty soon. But it felt like the bigger star in this match was Albert until the very end. And yeah, all of a sudden he just turns
Yeah.
into jobber number 2.
Yeah, because Edge here, even because we're pretty fresh off of that pretty famous street fight he had with Eddie Guerrero on SmackDown, where
Yep.
Edge, I think he essentially like broke his neck in that match, didn't he? Maybe
I
not broke
think
his
so,
neck,
yeah.
but he definitely he fucked it up at least.
Yeah.
So Edge is actually pretty banged up in this match, and I think it would be like February because this is December. So like in a matter of months, he goes and gets neck surgery, and he's out for like a year or more. I don't
Right,
remember
because he
exactly
missed
how long. but
Mania in
he's out.
Toronto. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, Edge, yeah, they had big plans for him as a top babyface, but it wouldn't really pan out that way. But I guess it all worked in the end, I suppose. But yeah, the match is pretty good. I think Edge, he hits like a tornado educator. We got I don't know, anything else stick out to you? And A-Train, probably the most impressive thing A-Train did in this match was Edge was going for like a top rope crossbody or something, and then Albert just hits this bicycle kick out of midair
Yes.
onto Edge. That looked pretty badass.
It did. Also, did you catch the where he almost decapitated him doing the slingshot on the second rope where he I forget what you call
Yeah.
that. It's like the wheelbarrow where you lift them up and they snap their neck. I mean,
Guillotine,
vicious.
something.
Yeah.
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 It was. I feel like he always weirdly had like a really vicious looking one of those moves. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the technique is, but it always looked brutal. I mean, I guess how could it not be? But I gotta shout out Michael Cole here because he had a good line. A-Train is when he was coming out in his entrance, and Michael Cole's like, A-Train has jumped on the fast track to success. Because he's a train. Do you get it?
Yeah.
He's a train.
Choo choo.
Choo-choo. Well, like you said, Edge kind of fights back. He's starting to get some momentum going, spears A-Train, but then A-Train grabs a chair and just smashes Edge on the leg for a DQ. And also, there's further backstory here. So Edge and Rey Mysterio had been teaming at this point, but A-Train basically took out Rey by injuring his knee. He had to go get surgery. Like on SmackDown, A-Train put Rey like in a tree of woe against the turnbuckle post and hit him with a chair in the knee. So the whole story of this match, I guess, is Albert's trying to do the same thing to Edge. Commentary is putting over how Edge has a torn MCL, which I don't know if that's a real thing or not. I mean, I know what an MCL is a real thing. I'm just saying I don't know if it's torn or not. But I guess that's why he hit him in the leg with a chair. It's supposed to be brutal, but it didn't seem like Edge really was too phased by it. But he was able to stand on it enough to give A-Train all kinds of CTE with that chair shot to the head. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait. That's a
With that's the size of the head. The size of the head on Bloom. I'm surprised the chair didn't lose that battle.
well, it was pretty bent, so it had some
was,
scars
yeah.
on it.
Yeah. It was vicious. My God. When I saw it, I forgot about chair shots to the head and how bad they were back then.
Yeah. It's hard to look at in hindsight for sure. I guess Matt Bloom's doing okay for now. So all's well that ends well.
Yep.
But we got the WWE champ backstage with his manager, Paul Heyman. So it's Big Show and Paul Heyman backstage. And they're talking about what Brock said earlier about how he's going to make an impact. Because we're fresh off a Survivor Series where Paul Heyman turned on Brock Lesnar and aligned with the Big Show. And the Big Show gave Brock his first loss in WWE and took his WWE title from him. So Big Show is all paranoid about what Brock said. He's like, what does make an impact mean? What's he going to do? And Paul Heyman's like, oh, I'll go talk to Stephanie. I'll make sure she takes care of it. And again, another huge monster being a chicken shit. Don't know why this is their modus operandi here, but it is. It is. But
who chooses the Big Show over Brock Lesnar, by the way?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question because the whole build up to Survivor Series was like Brock. He basically didn't need Paul Heyman anymore, and he wasn't listening to him. So I guess he had no choice. But I think Paul would align with Kurt Angle after this. Isn't that a thing? Isn't that how Team Angle comes into play?
That might be. Yeah, you might be onto something there. Yeah,
I'm a little fuzzy on this timeline, but I think that's a thing. But after that, we get something a little different. We get Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit. Watching these two wrestle was always bizarre in hindsight. It's always maybe a little depressing, but man, I could still watch these guys wrestle every day. I mean, you're not going to get a bad match with these two. Lots of chain, like a stark difference between this match and the last match. A lot of good technical stuff, chain wrestling. I don't know. What did you think about this one?
So as I said on our show, because we're watching 95 Benoit, and we're seeing actually against Eddie on there. And like I said it before, I can't erase the memory of Benoit as a wrestler and how he was one of my favorite wrestlers back then. I don't forgive him for what he did in real life, but I mean, watching this is a wrestling clinic, basically. I mean, even from like his theme song, being a Canadian, I have to love that because it's Our Lady Peace that's doing the theme song, but it's by law. We have to love it. But yeah, I mean, there's just something about these two when they're together. It's so technical yet so physical. It's just unbelievable. And it was the right move to have Eddie play the heel, because there's just something when Eddie goes heel, he just gets dark. And it's like when you're looking at him, it's like he transforms into this person. Like you almost think that he's off the wagon here or something at this point, because he just feels like just dark and just in like the gutter or something. And it plays into this whole match. And I won't spoil the rest of the match, but I mean, man, like anytime you get to watch a Benoit Eddie match is a treat.
Yeah, for sure. And like Eddie and Benoit both, and like I always say this, even like when they have individual matches against other people, like they make every move count. Like there's so much intent behind everything they do. It's very similar to like a Bret Hart. Like everything mattered. They sold aggressively. Their strikes were aggressive. Their submissions were aggressive. Like everything just felt like a fight. And when they fight against each other, it's just amplified. So
we just talked about this on the show. We said we can see, like, or I said, I mean, Jay's more of a today's wrestling fan, but I said I can see where today's wrestlers got what they're doing from. They got the intensity, they got the speed, they got the crazy moves. But what they forgot to notice is that they're selling these moves. They sell them very well, and they take time in between the moves for it to register as well. And if today's guys who are so athletic would just add that little piece to it, you couldn't match what they'd be doing today compared to anything else. But these guys, you could put this match in today's wrestling, and it fits in perfectly. They were so far ahead of their time, especially compared to WWE. They were so far ahead of their time. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like when the Radicals came to WWE is when you kind of saw the more technical matches begin to unfold on a more regular basis, and they really spearheaded that for sure. Yeah, some chain wrestling in the beginning, feeling each other out, and it kind of amps up a little bit. Benoit gets thrown over the top rope. It was like a weird, like he went. I don't even know how to like describe it with words. He almost went over the top rope, but went through between like the second and third rope. It got like pancaked or folded up like a sandwich or whatever the hell.
But it actually looked cool because it actually made sense that could possibly happen. It's like,
I mean, it looks like it hurt. So
you could see Eddie say to Hebner, like, go check on him.
Yeah. Well, Eddie didn't care too much because he follows up with a plancha to the outside onto Benoit. And we get like an ample amount of German suplexes. I mean, Benoit hits Eddie with like what, 7 or 8? It felt like.
Yeah.
Eddie even comes back with 3 of his own, followed by a suplex. I think this is before he was doing the 3 Amigos, so this might have been like his.
Apparently, it was, yeah.
Yeah, like planting seeds for him to start using that. But hits a frog splash for a 2 count, which felt weird. I think they're really trying to get this lasso from El Paso over, which what you think of that? Eddie, he threw in this new submission. It's like a I don't know, Texas Cloverleaf, Walls of Jericho combination of sorts. What would you think of that?
Yeah, I think Sheamus does the same thing now sometimes for it's not a finisher for him, but he does it. But I mean, you can't beat the frog splash. It's such a thing of beauty. I will say I love, love, love what Eddie did on that frog splash. So he took a moment to sell his stomach and the pain that he was in from hitting that. And it gave at least a plausible excuse as to why Benoit would have kicked out on that one. And again, just that's these little tiny things that we're missing today that would just work so much better for these guys. But yeah, that was fantastic. The finisher, I rather the frog splash. I mean, I'm not unless like it works for like Benoit to have a tap out finisher because he's so intense and that move just looks so vicious, or Brett doing his sharpshooter, it just makes sense, or Flair. But Eddie is a high flyer that it should be that frog splash as his finisher, and that move just wasn't believable. I was trying to think, was there a story going into this where maybe he was trying to keep up with Benoit on the submission moves, and that's why he introduced it, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of started using it amongst like the SmackDown 6, like when everybody was fighting everybody. So I don't know if it was specifically Benoit related. I will say though, and I'm just kind of thinking of this right now, maybe it's because of Rob Van Dam, how he has the 5-star frog splash. Maybe Eddie's oh, I don't want to get lost in the shuffle. I want to have my own unique thing. But he would eventually go back to the frog splash. I don't think he used this lasso for too long.
Well, he was the bigger star by the time he gone back to it. So
yeah, for sure. And so Benoit, Eddie, they scuffle on the outside for a little bit. Eddie gets back in the ring after he knocks Benoit down on the outside. Eddie distracts the ref. And then comes Chavo Guerrero with the tag team championship belt, which, by the way, the Guerreros are the WWE tag team champions at this point. So Chavo has the belt, smashes Benoit on the head with it. Eddie pulls him in. 1, 2, kick out. So Benoit kicks out. Benoit starts to fight back, power bombs Eddie, which, by the way, a power bomb has never looked better than when Benoit does it to Eddie Guerrero. For whatever reason, the way they work together with that, it always just looks, there's like a whiplash effect that you don't see between any other combo of people. Like even back to their days with Japan.
Yeah, literally in the 95 match where we just watched, the exact same thing. Even like we commented on how the announcers sold it because I think they were taken aback by the viciousness of it because they all just were like, oh, like when he hit it, he would snap it and then Eddie would just attack the mat when he's going down. It just looked insane. Speaking of that whole Chavo outside, which by the way, Chavo looked jacked here. I don't remember Chavo looking this good as far as physically, but and he was great as far as his selling on stuff. But I was thinking to myself, do we have Brian Hebner to blame for Aubrey Edwards today? Because what was up with Hebner and just grabbing hold of Eddie and dragging him back in the ring and getting physical in his face? Like, I remember not being a fan of Hebner all along anyways because of his stuff that he would do during the match to get a little bit of attention, but this was kind of over the top the way, like he literally pulls Eddie in. I thought he was going to do a German suplex on him.
Maybe he's, I don't know, doesn't like Mexicans or something. Could be.
Let's start that rumor.
Brian Hebner is there a word for that? Just like anti-Semitic, but with Mexicans,
anti-Hispanic or something. Yeah.
There we go. Spread the word. Fightful. Take this soundbite. Spread it across the Twitters.
You heard it here first.
By the way, I didn't catch any, but I'm just gonna ask you because there always is. There's always when Eddie Guerrero's like when he comes out, there's always somebody with an Eddie Guerrero mows my lawn sign. I didn't catch any on this show. But maybe, I don't know if you did. There was, of course. Why wouldn't there? Because he's Hispanic, They love to do that.
Yeah.
They love to mow lawns. But speaking of mowing lawns, Benoit, he gets in there, hits a headbutt onto Eddie from the top rope. But Eddie counters. Benoit was like crawling over to get to the pin. Eddie smoothly counters into the lasso from El Paso. Benoit counters that into the crossface. Eddie fights. He tries to get to the ropes. Can't. tries to roll through, but Benoit maintains hold, and Eddie has to tap. So Chris Benoit wins, and then he would go on to face Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble, which is one of my personal favorite matches of all time, and they're really kind of throwing the rocket on the Benoit at this point. So this is kind of, I guess, in hindsight, a number one contenders match of sorts. But yeah, awesome stuff, I thought.
Fantastic match. Absolutely fantastic match. Probably one of my favorite wrestling memories, and this goes back a long time, was watching the rise of Chris Benoit into main event status, because he was the original Daniel Bryan. Like he was, the fans willed him into that main event status in the WWE. I do know, like, watching the flying headbutt now, knowing what it caused and what eventually would happen, that's kind of tough to watch. That was one where I was a bit uncomfortable. And of course, in later matches when you see the chair shots and things like that. But yeah, that match was just so good. And it brought me back to being a Benoit fan and remembering this is pretty much where the Rocket, you're right, is starting to be strapped onto him. You just couldn't deny him because he was just so physical and so over with the fans. And same thing for Eddie. Eddie was starting to become in the same league as well.
Yeah, this is definitely an era where fans are thirsty for like work rate type of stuff, because I cover Ring of Honor in this era as well. And like, that's really like what lifted that company up so much, is like how they got so much steam behind them, is because you were seeing wrestling and not all the like the segment we're about to talk about, like that kind of stuff. And Benoit and Eddie represent that perfectly. And yeah, like you said, eventually Benoit would, we're still like a year away from his real push. Same with Eddie, but we're getting there. You could feel it though. You could feel it happening. Yeah. And commentary is really putting it over too. Like Benoit, they're like really putting over how Benoit, like his dream is to be the world champion. And really, because he was a heel not that long ago, but now he's definitely switching. But we go backstage to Stephanie McMahon's office. Paul Heyman's in there because, as you remember, he went to go talk to Stephanie to, I guess, get Brock re-suspended or whatever. Paul Heyman's like, hey, Steph, look, you got to protect the sanctity of the WWE Championship. You can't let Brock Lesnar go out there and ruin it. That would just ruin the prestige of it. And then Stephanie's like, hey, Larry, didn't you literally just interfere in a match to give Big Show the title? And Paul's like, yeah, you're right. So that ends that. But after that,
Stephanie was so young there.
Oh, Stephanie, this was a good era for Stephanie McMahon. Loved her
she
work
was
rate
only
this
26 years old there. It's just crazy how young she was and how composed and good she was at that point.
Maybe she should have been with Dawn Marie and Tori Wilson, huh?
Oh my God, how'd they get that stuff on the air back then? I just couldn't believe. I felt uncomfortable watching it because I know my wife is home and I'm like, my God, if she walks down and sees this, I'm like, oh, this is like how, when your spouse your spouse, whenever she walks into wrestling, it's always a women's match. It's like Dana Brooke against I don't know, Tits McGee, but yeah, it's always, that's the match that they're walking like, oh yeah, that's why you watch wrestling.
I'm watching my sports, dear. Go away. Do you think, okay, what lasted longer? Dawn Marie and Tori Wilson kissing, or the Dudleys run in the tag team match earlier?
Oh, by far, Dawn Marie and Tori kissing. I think it was longer. I think it lasted longer than Batista Kane, to be quite honest.
Probably.
And how good an actor was Al Wilson, by the way?
There we go. I don't know if you heard that or not, but
I did.
You're welcome. So we got Tori Wilson and Dawn Marie. Well, actually, it's just Dawn Marie. So I don't know if you're familiar with the storyline or how familiar.
Unfortunately,
you are
I am. Yes, unfortunately, I remember this vividly. Yeah.
Well, Dawn and Al Wilson, of course, the father of Tori Wilson, are engaged at this point. Tori does not approve of this. Dawn's like, well, I'll break off the engagement if you fuck me. So
I swear, honey, I'm doing research. For a podcast.
So Don's like, hey, Tori, here's my room to my hotel. This is like on SmackDown a few weeks ago or whatever. Don's like, hey, come to my hotel later. And Tori's like, I don't want to because I'm not a lesbian, but I also love my father. All right, I guess I'll come and give you a quick sizz. So Don's in there. By the way, Tori walks into the room and Dawn just is, the lamp is just like on her face, just campfire, scary. Yeah, it was just menacing. It's like, is she gonna have sex with her?
I'm the leprechaun.
Then, yeah. So what's happening in Armageddon is Dawn Marie and Al Wilson come out, and Dawn's like, look, I'm gonna show everybody what happened in that hotel room. And then Dawn's like, all right, roll the footage. And then you get the most softcore porn, just, oh man, they took their time. They sold, they registered. It was just, whew, they got, I mean, I don't know if I'm just desensitized with today and just have gaping assholes in front of your face in 2 seconds if you wanted to. But man, here, Tori, eat a strawberry, and puts a strawberry in her face. She didn't want to eat it. Tori,
my favorite comment,
champagne.
my favorite comment by Dawn Marie was afterwards. She's like, "You smell like strawberries." Of course she does. You just fed her a strawberry.
You got a big bowl of strawberries over there. You dumb. Okay, whatever.
Keep in mind, Tori Wilson's real life father is watching this in the ring.
Al Wilson was disgusted. He was not having this. That wasn't acting. He didn't like what was happening here. So yeah, so Tori or Dawn, I guess, takes off Tori's. I don't know why I'm doing commentary on this. Dawn takes. I'm breaking this down more than Benoit and Eddie.
She disrobes her.
Right. Yes. Well, first it's the jacket, and then it's the skirt, and then Dawn's like, and then they begin to kiss a little bit, and then Dawn's like, hey, freeze the footage, and then the crowd boos. Al's like, hey, I think we've seen enough. That's my daughter, damn it. Then Dawn's like,
you're a bit too expressive with that imitation. He tried a bit more stilted.
Yeah, how did he deliver it? I forget.
Oh, it was like, that's my daughter. Stop it.
And Dawn's like, all right, I'll play some more of this, I guess, against my fiance's wishes. So they play some more, they kiss some more, and then Al's like, hey, stop it. I'm sorry. He's like, hey, stop it, stop it. For a long time, and they finally stop it, and the crowd starts chanting asshole at Al Wilson. And then Dawn Marie's like, he's not an asshole. It's a funny line. And Dawn's like, yeah, I've proven now that Tori is a sexual predator. And then the segment's over. It's like, okay, that was a lot of time for that. But yeah. How many stars?
Lawler had the line of the night, though. He said something about he wanted to go backstage to see the rest, but he couldn't stand up at the moment.
I didn't catch that. That's hilarious. Man, if there's one segment you need Lawler for, it's this one. But it was Taz and Cole, unfortunately. Hot tomato, or whatever Taz said. Well, that's your hot lesbian action for the night, I guess.
Yeah, more to come.
I've already come a lot. But Kane versus Batista also came in this match. They came to the ring and wrestled a match. And Batista, his pay-per-view debut, he's newly aligned with Ric Flair, but evolution is not a thing. So Ric Flair is just kind of the one variable that's the same here. I guess Flair or Batista and Triple H haven't linked up yet, and Randy Orton I think is still injured, although I think he's about to come back. So I think evolution's literally comes together.
It was the following month, yeah.
Right. So it's a matter of weeks. It'll be a thing. But kind of Batista's first big match here. And look, Batista, he's super green here. I'm not, and it's against Kane. Like, I'm not expecting a 5-star classic. Two big men slapping meat, I suppose. But there's another situation where it's like, Flair's out there with Batista. This felt like a handicap match. Like, Flair's like this gnat that's constantly like distracting the ref when Kane has control, and it kind of leads to the finish too. But all in all, I mean, Batista got his moves in, But again, I feel like we're just making these big jacked up guys feel like just regular heels.
Yeah. Yeah. My comments on this were to steal a line from Steve Austin. Batista looked green as goose shit at this point. But he looked like a freaking beast. I got to give him that. He looked like a star. Typical Haas fight.
His traps were crazy.
Boulder shoulders on him. And then, like I said, Flair was a bumping fool during this match. Like he was like a super bouncy ball or something like that. But he helped the match out. I forgot how in great shape Kane was at this point too. Kane was a freaking beast at this point.
Yeah.
And it looked like a botch on that first Batista bomb attempt. It was really awkward. But
I didn't know what was it supposed to be Kane fighting out? Because it looked like Batista got him up. I think so. But then he just let him down.
Yeah, he just let him down slowly, which I think there was supposed to be maybe some different, or maybe he was supposed to flip him, but or maybe Dave forgot, oh wait, I wasn't supposed to end it here. Flair's got to do about 18 more bumps for me before this happens. But the actual Batista bomb he put on Kane was really impressive looking. That was his best move in the match for sure.
Yeah, because especially with hindsight, like Batista did his spine buster and his spears and all that, but it was just like a little shittier than what it would end up being.
Yeah.
But again, like it's his first pay-per-view match. You expect it.
That spear was intense. Like he charged Kane at full speed and he hit him pretty good. It was not worked as well. Let's put it that way.
Right. It was all substance, no sizzle. But Kane, like you said, Batista goes for the Batista bomb. Kane, I guess, fights out of it. Hits a low blow on Batista. Hits a clothesline from the top rope. And then charges Batista, but gets hit with a spine buster. And then but Kane fights back and then goes for the choke slam. Ric Flair on the apron distracts the ref. Batista's able to capitalize with the Batista bomb. Hits it beautifully, like you said. And Batista gets the win here. So Batista gets a big win, even though it was a lot of shenanigans afoot here. A big win over Kane, who was pretty, red hot. He was on fire at this point. Even though, we're not too far away from him killing and having sex and mutilating a dead corpse. But we don't talk about that anymore. That was yesterday's tomatoes. But yeah, Batista gets.
I see nothing but good things for Kane ahead.
Yeah, right. Couldn't be worse. Couldn't be worse.
No.
Who do you think came out of the show looking better, Batista or A-Train?
Ooh. Well, honestly, in my opinion, A-Train looked like a better wrestler, but I think Batista looked better because he's with Flair, so he's got that rub from Flair. It's amazing what Flair can do for you.
Yeah. Well, hey, A-Train has the rub from Big Show. Kind of.
Again.
That's a thing. Well, we got John Cena coming out here, which you hear that and you're like, wow, must be a big moment. 2002, December. It's kind of like, why is he here? Why do we need this? He's rapping. Cena is, and this is pretty newly his gimmick here. Maybe a month or two he's been doing this. We got B Squared out there.
Bling
Bling Buchanan. Which, does B Squared stand for Bling Bling or Bling Buchanan?
I always thought it was Bull Buchanan. That's why they went with B Squared. But then I heard Bling Bling, and I'm like, oh wait, I don't remember this part.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think they ever actually said his name, but like you, I always thought it was Bull Buchanan. But it's canon in my head that it's Bling Bling is what the B Squared stands for. But yeah, Cena's rapping. I think this might be the first time he's done an actual rap. I can't remember if he ever did one on a SmackDown or maybe like a Velocity or some shit. But yeah, what are your thoughts on his bars here? Was it hot fire?
After a Kane match, ironically enough, but I would say his bars were a little weak at this point. Well, the idea behind the rhymes was okay, but his delivery was a little weak. I don't think he was totally comfortable. But forgive me if I'm incorrect, but I think he first did this on the Halloween episodes of SmackDown. So literally, this is the genesis of the Dr. Thugonomics, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And that was a backstage segment and all that. I
Yeah.
think this is his first time coming out and actually doing it
Yeah.
live, though.
Yeah. So
Um,
that's pretty cool to see that and to see where he's of course turned into. But
yeah.
as far as his rapping, I'll give him a 5 out of 10 maybe on that. But
Hmm.
of course, he would later get much better at that part of the gimmick.
It's tough to do it a cappella, I feel like.
Yes.
'Cause you have Max
Yeah.
Caster coming out here with the beat and all that stuff. He's like, and all that. But Cena's just like, just an arena. It's just,
Yeah.
we're,
Maybe B squared needed to do a little beatboxing for him or something.
I don't know, man. Have you ever heard Bull Buchanan talk?
No.
There's a reason this guy never got the mic. He was like one of those guys that's like, he looks tough until you hear him speak. It's like Dan Severn. Dan Severn, whatever his name is. Like he like looked like a badass. He had a mustache, but he's like,
Mhm.
listen here, buddy, I'm gonna kick your ass or whatever. I don't think he sounded like that, but it was close. It was close. Maybe that's more of a Jacqueline, actually. But speaking of which, we got a women's world title match here, triple threat match. We got the champion, Victoria, versus Jacqueline versus Trish Stratus. So women's division, 2002. You kind of know what you're expecting here. Not a bad match. I mean, it was kind of chaotic, but I think that's kind of the nature of a triple threat match. It definitely felt like it was rushed. Victoria
Mhm.
even like ran to the ring in her entrance, so it's almost like, oh, we only have this amount of time. I better just skip the hubbub of my entrance and just get in there and start working. So, a lot of action here, a little rough at some points, but I don't know. What'd you think about it?
I totally agree. I remember when this is Victoria just debuted not that long ago, and I remember being like a huge Victoria fan. I thought she was pretty
Hmm.
awesome at the time, being a young man at that point. But but I did find yeah, it felt rushed. Like I think I looked at it, it was 4.5 minutes, and it felt like they were in warp speed. They were trying to get a 10-minute match into 4.5 minutes. So everything was chaotic. It was really strange. And the other thing I thought it was a little bit sloppy, to be honest with you. And I look at it, looking back at it now and thinking to myself, these are three of the top women wrestlers of that era. And if they were in the ring against, say, like the four horsewomen of today, it wouldn't be, it would be a joke compared to that. I mean, it just
Mm,
goes to show how good the women's wrestlers are today and how much that they've evolved over the years. I mean, not that these ladies were bad, but
right.
they just weren't given time to really work a match in the ring.
Yeah, when they were given time, like this era, like the women in this era are way more talented than I think a lot of people remember. Because it is very much I mean, we just saw the lesbian shit earlier. Like, there's still a
Yeah.
lot of that. But Trish always worked her ass off. So did Jacqueline. Victoria was
Molly
super
Holly
athletic.
was good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there were a lot.
But
Jazz is somewhere. I think she's injured at this point, but
yeah, they
um,
need time is what they need in these matches. But I was watching it, it's almost like they had happy feet, if you know what I mean. Like they're so
mm,
quick to try to get to move. You can see their feet kind of pattering because like they're just they know what they're thinking. What do I got to do next? What do I got to do next? That type of thing. But it's all because they got no time.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But they got like a video package before the match, so it's like they're giving like spotlight to the women's division here, which is like even like little things like that. It's like we weren't getting that a year ago. Victoria, like her character is pretty solidified here as just like an unhinged witch of sorts. She like talking to the mirror and smashing it, like that kind of person. And then her and Trish, I guess the story was that they were friends at some point. They trained together, and but WWE wanted Trish because she was the prettier one in their eyes, and Victoria's jealous and she's vengeful because of that. So there's all this whole backstory, and then Jacqueline comes into play. I guess Victoria on Raw or something was like going through her gear in the locker room, Jacqueline's gear, and then Jacqueline's like, "Hey, what you some psycho bitch or something?" And then that's that. And then I guess Jacqueline beat Victoria in some sort of match on Raw. So that's how we got this. But
Mhm.
um this match here, you gets the finish and how it seems like they like blew like you could like there was like a planned finish and then they had to like redo it.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but it was like they were on the wrong side of the ring because Victoria
Mhm.
goes, I think Jackie pushes her off the top rope. She should have been out of the match completely, but all of a sudden she pops up immediately and you see her running around the ring to get to the other side. Meanwhile, the pinfall is going on in the spot where she got knocked down. And it seemed like it was discombobulated. And then they go over to the other side where she pulls the belt move. And it was just, yeah,
Mhm.
right in front of the referee, by the way. I should mention.
Well, it's a triple threat match, so there's no DQ, right?
Oh,
Or is
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Are we there yet? Are we there where
I
that's
don't
the
know.
thing?
Honestly, I don't know.
But yeah, because like I think Trish hits Jacqueline with a chick kick, and it, like kind of towards the corner of the ring.
Yeah.
But Victoria like doesn't have the belt yet, and the belt's like in the
No.
opposite corner. So they have to like do a whole thing where Trish picks up Jacqueline, throws her in that corner, gives her a clothesline, pins her, and then Jacqueline or Victoria with the championship belt from the outside clocks Trish in the head with it, and then gets in and pins her. So Victoria retains here. And yeah, the debut of Tattoo, by the way, which it's not on Peacock, which
Right, yes.
makes me really upset. But they had the dubbed version, which is kind of similar. So a little nugget of information for you.
Was Victoria with Steven Richards at this point?
Yes, they did. I forget how that came to be. I don't think there was really a lot of story to it. I think Victoria was just solemn. He was like, "Oh, you're kind of crazy like me," and then she started licking his face. I think that's what you were telling me. That's how you and your spouse got together, right?
It was exactly like that. It's amazing. It's art imitating life, really.
It really is. It really is. But no face looking in this next match here. I don't think.
It's not the Bushwhackers.
Might as well have been. We got the Big Show, the WWE champion, defending against Kurt Angle. And man, none of this story is about Big Show versus Kurt Angle. It is all about Brock Lesnar. Will he be in Kurt Angle's corner? But he doesn't come out with Kurt Angle, so like, oh, I guess he's not. Well, they would have an egg on their face later down the road. But
Oh, yeah.
the match itself, though, I feel like, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Big Show in this era? Like Big Show in jeans.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. It's one of the first things I wrote down was I am not a fan of this look for Big Show. What are they called? Like the Junko jeans or something like that at that time. But
I think that's the only
not
jeans
a
that would
good
fit
look.
him.
Not a good look. The Fu Manchu with the flat top, not a good look either.
All right.
I will say this though, compared to what Big Show was booked like in his later years of WWE, I was amazed to see how much of a monster they put him over as at this point because he
Yeah.
was dominating Kurt for a little while there.
I mean, even in this era, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, Big Show was a jobber. Like, he was losing to everybody. And then now he links up with Paul Heyman and is champion, but not for long. And I think this might have been his last world title reign, if I remember correctly. Unless he kind of ECW one.
Unless it's ECW, yeah.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. He did have one more world title reign against like Mark Henry or something. This is like when Daniel Bryan was in the picture and he like cashed in on him. But even then, I don't think he was champion for long then either. But yeah.
Were you a Big Show fan?
I feel like they just did him dirty. I feel like he just flip-flopped too much. Like that's the meme now, but it's true. Like you could never they never gave you enough time to hate him or enough time to love him. Mm-hmm. So he was always in this middle and the comedy stuff, which is fine every now and then, but it's like this guy's you got to commit to him being a monster. Like he's this giant, like make him be a giant. And they had little spurts where they did that effectively, which you can consider that one of these times, but they just never really committed to it, I guess. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, like I enjoyed him as the Giant more in WCW than I did as the Big Show in WWE.
Yeah.
I feel like they booked him better in that, although that got kind of silly at the end. But like I found like even from the get-go with Big Show, like within his first month, he does that spot with McMahon where he throws was it Austin through the cage, and instead of playing it off as like, oh my God, this guy's a beast. He just tossed a man through the cage. Although it did cost McMahon the match in that, I think it was St. Valentine's Day Massacre or something like that. They should have, instead of playing it up like he's just such a beast that he's able to do that, instead they played it up like, what an idiot. He throws him through the cage and costs the match, right? It's like, okay, well, there you go. You just completely chop the nuts off your monster, when they could have spent a whole year building this guy up to be just an absolute beast, and then go with whatever you want to do with him. So I felt like right from the get-go you didn't have a chance, and then you started having heel turn, face turn, heel turn. Then I totally blanked on, I forgot about all the imitations he was doing and stuff like that, like where he was imitating Val Venus and all these people, and like, oh my God, that was they just deballed him for so long.
WWE, man, they couldn't help themselves. You have this big scary monster. We were just fucking talking about Sweet Tea. They did the same thing with him. Great Khali. Oh, let's make him dance like a silly Indian. Let's Kane. Let's make him do a spinneroonie and all that stuff. So they can't help themselves, and Big Show wasn't immune to that, I guess.
The same company that booked Andre the Giant for years does this to all their monsters now, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, with Big Show, I think his ECW title run probably was like the closest to like his true potential, in my opinion. Like with Paul Heyman, funny enough. So I guess that's his good luck charm. Old Paulie boy here. Not a lot to this match. I mean, Big Show, like you said, he looks pretty dominant here, doing all his big man stuff. Gets some bear hugs, shoulder blocks. He breaks out the final cut, which is the Eye of the Hurricane, as some people might know it. The crowd starts chanting USA at some point, which I guess the Giant, is he from parts unknown? I know he was at some point, right?
The land of the Yeti.
Right? the dungeon? Well, what did WCW bill him as? Might have just been the dungeon, from the Dungeon of Doom.
Wherever he goddamn well pleases.
Right. Kurt Angle hits like a springboard moonsault on a Big Show, a standing Big Show. Kind of like hit his boot, just clips him in the head, and Kurt lands pretty bad on his neck, which is not a good omen for the rest of his career. Angle is able to hit Big Show with an Angle slam, which is pretty impressive. It only gets 2 counts. The ref goes down at some point, and you get multiple chair shots from Kurt Angle. I think he even hits him a few times in the head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, because Kurt tries to pin him after that, but Show just throws him off. Slaps on the Angle lock, but Show taps out right away, but there's no ref. Choo choo, the A-Train's here. And I need to get a sound effect on my soundboard. The A-Train is here. Hits Kurt Angle with like a rack backbreaker of sorts. And
that was vicious looking, by the way.
Dude, A-Train, I'm telling you, man, this dude has some pretty good moves in his arsenal. But then, A-Train just kind of skedaddles after that. And then, so both guys are down. The ref's down. Who comes in? None other than Brock Lesnar. Comes in, F5 to Big Show, leaves. Kurt Angle makes the pin. Kurt Angle is your new WWE champion. So, again, like, Brock was the whole story here. Even in like the video package, it was all like focused on Brock, and it was really just like a big pre-show to the real show, which was Brock Lesnar coming in and doing his deal. There's even like a "We Want Brock" chant from the crowd. So it was all about Brock, but new champ here. So that's fun, right?
Yeah, I commented, this is peak Kurt Angle here. Like the wrestling machine, still relatively healthy. Look, his body looks good, all that stuff. It's just, I forgot just how effing good Kurt Angle was. Like, it's hard to do that, but I mean, he was so fast, so quick, and so strong. Like that Angle slam on Big Show was really impressive looking. And I don't care how many times you watch Brock Lesnar toss somebody around, to see him do an F5 on Big Show is always amazing to watch. Yeah. He's so young here too. He just looks like a baby at this point.
He's 23, maybe, near?
Yeah.
Something like that, which is just, you're a child. An absolute child.
It was funny when him and Kurt were backstage for that segment where they were talking about him coming into his corner, and they're standing face to each other, and Brock's basically got his arms folded, and his effing bicep is just eclipsing Kurt's head in the size of it. I'm just thinking, my God, like it's scary to think of how strong you must be, and it's all country boy stuff too. It's not like he's out, racking weights all the time. It's a guy that's picking up bales of hay or cows and putting them on his shoulder and just tossing them and stuff. It's just crazy,
dude. Like even like seeing pictures of him in like high school and college, like I couldn't imagine being on a wrestling team and seeing that big motherfucker across from me. I'll just, you got it, buddy. This is all you. I'll take the L here. It's just,
I saw on Twitter, it was a highlight of Shelton Benjamin wrestling for Minnesota as well when he won the championship. And I'm thinking, could you imagine? That's your team. It's Brock and Shelton on the same team. You're the opposing wrestling team. It's like, come on, guys. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna switch to lacrosse here, folks.
All right. Brock would probably dominate that too if he wanted to. It's but yeah, Shelton. We get Shelton here, and it could be the very next week. I don't remember exactly when he comes around, but it's pretty soon. It's before the Royal Rumble, that's for sure. I think it's that's actually the match I think where Kurt initially hurts his neck. Well, he hurt it in the Olympics, but he like hurts it again at No Way Out. I think there's like some sort of handicap match or something with Team Angle, and then it's unfortunately kind of all downhill from there. I mean, he would have a long career, but yeah. But after that, well, first of all, we got to give a shout out to RVD, who's in the World, aka WWE New York. Dude, bro, RVD, do all my I'm watching this and I'm like, man, this is just like RVD kind of had his run when he first got the WWE, and now he's just the mid-card guy, I feel like, from here on out.
How do you think the food tasted at the World?
I haven't heard good things. Well, no, so I've heard that the WCW, whatever their thing was, I've heard that food was awful. I can't imagine the World's food was good. Have you ever been there?
No, I have not, but I picture it being like a poor man's Boston pizza or something like that.
I don't know if they had the punny food names there. I know WCW did. It's if you just like Google the WCW menu, it's like Hulk Hoagies and Kevin Nashville chicken tenders and stupid. I'm sure that for the World had something similar.
I tell you what, we want to have we want to try Pastamania after watching that '95 Hogan run.
Oh, what was that again? Remind me.
That was Hogan's little franchise that he had in the Mall of America, Pastamania. That's why the whole reason that they had the first show in the Mall of America, so they could advertise that. But that was when he apparently turned down the deal for the George Foreman grill and gave it to old George, and he ended up with Pastamania.
Man, can you imagine it being the Hulk Hogan grill instead?
I know.
How things would change. How life would change if that were the case. Well, hey, at least we got Woo Wings. Have you heard of that?
Oh, man. Yes, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Goddamn, Rick. Enough. You got your money. Enough with the best wings. Woo! Shut the fuck up, Richard. Speaking of which, man, does Ric Flair, for some reason, even as a manager, getting color in this match. We got the main event here. It's for the World Heavyweight title. 3 stages of hell. We got the champion, Shawn Michaels, versus Triple H. So stage 1 is a street fight. Stage 2 is a cage. Stage 3, if necessary, is a ladder match. It will be necessary.
It always is.
It always is. What are your thoughts on this type of match? I feel like what was the last one we saw? Was it Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano?
Yeah, something like I think it was. Yeah,
there haven't been that many of them. What are your thoughts on this concept of a match?
I mean, it's wrestling, so it's obvious it's going to go through all 3 of them. I'd love them to just sometimes just do 2 straight and be like, what the fuck happened there? But Yeah, I can see why they do it. I mean, this obviously dominated the majority of the pay-per-view. And full disclosure, I was a huge Triple H fan and loved this era of Triple H. I know a lot of people did not like him, but
Hmm.
the dude was jacked, ripped, badass. He's married to Stephanie, all that good stuff. So it's
Yeah.
I did enjoy this era of Triple H, and all I can say is I'm just so happy that Shawn didn't wear the maroon blood clot pants again for this match. He actually went with the
Yeah.
with the other regular Shawn attire. But yeah, I mean, the promo package for this match alone was fantastic. And I mean, after that SummerSlam battle, I mean, this how could you not enjoy what was happening right now with these guys?
Yeah, this feud was hot. This feud was hot. I mean, how can it not be with all like just the history, like the organic history of DX and all that stuff, and how Triple H pretty much took the ball once Shawn Michaels went away from injury. Like this is all real stuff, and they're kind of
Yep.
using that as the foundation here. And yeah, like you said, they had the SummerSlam match, which was awesome.
Yes.
Really, I watched that recently. That was an incredible match.
It was.
And Shawn came out the winner of that, but Triple H attacked after the match, put Shawn in a hospital, and didn't see him for a few months after that until Survivor Series, where Shawn went into the Elimination Chamber and beat Triple H for the world title. And so now we have the rematch, I was gonna say rubber match, but I mean they would continue to fight each other for like 2 more years. But really good stuff here. And right off the bat, Ric Flair's kicked out. Which you were talking about him being a bouncy ball earlier, man. The the comical, just him flopping around, just pissed off, holding onto the ropes, slipping on a banana peel. He's the best. He's the best.
Yet another Hebner being a tough guy with the push down of Flair too. It was Earl this time instead of Brian.
Are you still mad about Montreal?
Slightly.
Is that always where this all stems from? Isn't it?
No, you know what? I could never stand. I don't know why. I just didn't like the Hebners. I don't want to see my referees in the match until I actually have to see them. And that's forget Aubrey and all that stuff. I give or take that. But even back then, like the Hebners used to drive me crazy. Especially, I found Brian was just over the top with it. I'm sure that he's a great guy. I know he's got his own podcast and stuff like that. So,
he hates Mexicans. Remember?
That's right. He was down the border with JBL to getting rid of the Mexicans. So
right.
Oh man, but yeah, it's I don't know what it is. They just drives me crazy when it feels like the referee is too much of the show. And Earl he would always kick the guy's hand off the ropes instead of just counting the guy off the ropes and things like that. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, where's Jimmy Corderas when you need him? A good Canadian boy that's just gonna blend into the scenery.
I think there's a good amount of bias here, but I'm just gonna ignore it. We got Street Fight here to kick us off, which I would say is probably the majority of this overall match here. It really sets it up. Got trash cans get involved. With the plunder gets brought out pretty much immediately. Shawn sets up a table on the outside, goes to suplex Triple H through it, but he counters. Then Triple H sets up a second table and then tries to superplex Shawn off the apron. And Shawn counters, so it leads to the finish. But I like how they did it semi-organically in a way it made sense instead of just taking like 5 minutes to like manipulate furniture like you see a lot of times. But they're pros, I guess. They're pros. And then Triple H sets up a chair in the ring, goes to give Shawn a backbreaker onto the chair because, of course, Shawn's still fresh off of his back injury. So that's the target, at least in the beginning here. But then Triple H then again begins to attack the legs and locks in a figure 4. So some pretty brutal stuff here in the ring. But then eventually they make their way to the stage, which I don't know if I mentioned, but it's like on fire the whole show. Like there's like the flames, a little much. Like we both like the unique stage setup. I don't think we need fire, but fine. It's fine, I guess. And then Triple H, they fight. They're like by like where you come out. Triple H has Shawn down, and then Hunter goes to the back and pulls out a barbed wire board, or a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. Goes to hit Shawn with it, but decides not to. And he's like, you know what? I think we could actually set this thing on fire, and that would do a great deal more damage. So he goes over to the flaming set, sets it on fire, the barbed wire board, goes to hit Shawn with it, but Shawn kicks him in the gut, takes that board, hits Triple H right in the face with it. I feel like it was kind of glossed over. I feel like that's a match ender kind of thing.
Yeah.
A flaming barbed wire piece of wood.
Yeah.
I guess it busted him open, maybe. I don't know. I feel like maybe a scar, maybe Triple H is just on fire the rest of the match or something. I don't know. There's just ideas.
That'd be unique.
It would be. It would be. But so they fight back to the ring eventually. Trash can lids, we were talking about earlier, just back and forth, just loud as shit. Triple H does the classic Raven spot where he sets up a chair and drop toe holds Shawn Michaels into it. Goes to pedigree Shawn, but Shawn fights out with a low blow. And Shawn starts to fight back. It's like a Luthez press, but Triple H eventually lands the pedigree and gets the 1-2-3. So he's up 1-0 here and on to stage 2. But as far as stage 1 here, what'd you think about it?
Okay, so one, you did a phenomenal job reviewing that match because you pretty much covered every good high spot that was going on there. But I gotta say,
I took them all from you.
No, that's great because I just made some Cole's notes in this. But what you can't go wrong with Triple H and Shawn, and what people forget. This is the blow off that we didn't get from DX. This should have happened in 1998, but Shawn's back injury, of course, prevented that from happening. But of course, you're going to have at some point Triple H want to take over the group. Shawn becomes the face, and they battle it out and all that stuff. So, but it was almost better that this happened later on because Triple H is at the peak of his character at this point. Shawn is now not basically like a dickhead at this point either. So he's willing to actually give to people. As someone who's dealt with back issues in my entire life, every time I will watch Shawn at this period, knowing that he had come back from his back operation, I was always scared to death watching him wrestle that, something would happen to his back again. It's just, and he was so good at selling that you almost believed it. I mean, just the way that he would move, like as someone with back problems, like you get so stiff-legged that you can hardly, you look like you're basically carrying something in your trunks is what you're doing. But and he was so good at that stuff, right? That chair, that toe hold on the chair was a vicious looking spot. That was well done. And yeah, I forgot that was Raven who had that spot. Good call on that. I love JR's commentary. My God, he's so good. Just him saying like Triple H needs to be world champion. He's just really stressing how this guy is just psychotic about being the champion. And that's just, it puts that much more urgency into it. You said it, we said it before, the trash can lid shots were gross. How loud, it sounded like a shotgun going off when he hit him with it. The flaming barbed wire 2x4. Can we talk about how after Shawn kicked Triple H, how he almost set the crowd on fire when it went flying over to the guardrail? Yeah.
I thought it was a little sus how it was just it fell to the ground. It's like, are we gonna do something about this? It's like video game mechanics. Like it was just a flaming thing on the ground. It's like, okay, I'll just pick this up.
It was like lying against the guardrail, which back at that point they had like these full guard. It wasn't like the iron ones, and it wasn't the mats on them. It was just a regular black guardrail. But anyways, there was one fan leaning over trying to blow out the flame, which was pretty hilarious. And then Shawn just with the slice job on his head, like that was pretty intense. But yeah, but I mean, it was just a fantastic battle. I mean, they could have just had that be the match, and there you go. Yeah. That would have been plenty fine. But yeah, these guys they went balls out for this match. It was really good.
Yeah, and to think they have 2 more matches, quote unquote, coming up after this. It's like how I thought that was like my main takeaway of like the overall thing is that like they did a good job at like putting over how like each match took a lot out of them. Like they didn't just like start over like, all right, now match number 2. It's like, oh, I could barely stand. This cage is lowering around us, but it's like a a war zone in that ring. Like Triple H is like throwing all sorts of weapons in there while the cage is coming down. But
you know what? And I know a lot of people would say, well, you know, the first match took like 30 minutes and the next two took about 7 minutes each. But of course they're going to. These guys just beat the living hell out of each other, and now you're in a steel cage. It's not going to take much more to beat that guy. It almost would have been believable if Triple H then just went and pinned Shawn once again as soon as he was in the steel cage was lowered, because he was so beaten up from the last match.
yeah, I mean, Triple H and Shawn, I think their Hell in a Cell match was longer than this entire match, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
This was only like 30 minutes or so, which sounds long, but for a 3-match thing, I don't think it was. For a Triple H match, I mean, that's pretty short.
Yeah, it was 35 minutes and 25 seconds, they're saying.
Okay,
Yeah. And
that was even longer than I thought.
I would guess that 20 to 25 was the first match.
Yeah, because the last fall, which we'll get to, was like barely even a match. It was kind of a formality at that point.
Yeah.
But stage number 2, so Triple H is up 1-0. Stage 2, steel cage. So like I said, Triple H, while the cage is lowering, throws a table in the ring, some trash can lids, of course, some kitchen sinks, whatever the fuck. As if the cage isn't enough. But the cage finally comes down, and Shawn's in dire straits at this point. He's busted open. He gets like catapulted against the cage. But Shawn eventually, because like Triple H is attacking the leg again and over again. Shawn can barely stand, but he eventually fights back. A little Luthez press. It's at this point where Triple H is like, oh shit, he's fighting back. I better escape. So he runs, which is, what a heel should be doing in a steel cage match. He's like, all right, time to get out of here. So he runs, tries to climb over and escape the cage, but Shawn follows him. They're both straddling the top, fighting up at the top. Ric Flair comes back out, which I guess it's no DQ, so what are they going to do about it? Ric Flair sets up 2 more tables on top of the previously set up pair of tables. And I guess what was the thought here? That Triple H could just like jump off the cage and it would break his fall and then he would win?
I think the thought was that they were going to put Shawn through the table, but I'm sitting there watching going, if Shawn goes through the table though, he wins the match because he hits the floor. Is that how they're going to get the, because I couldn't remember how this match ended in this steel cage part. So I was like, is that how they're going to sneak a win for Shawn? Is Triple H screws up and maybe he sacrifices the win to damage him even further by him going through those tables. But that wasn't what it was. But it was good though, because it got you thinking. You're like, oh, is this going to be a crazy spot? And they actually didn't use it. So it was well done. I like that.
Yeah, because like I said, they like built on it. Like at first, it was just gonna be a suplex through 1 table, then a suplex off the apron through 2, and they're kind of constantly building it up to the crescendo into the finish, which they did that really well. But no one goes crashing through the table here. They get back in the ring. I think who is it? Triple H. Yeah, Triple H gets crotched on the top rope trying to get back in. Shawn hits the elbow from the top, and as he's tuning up the band to hit the sweet chin music, Ric Flair, I guess, has a key or something. He got in the cage somehow. I don't know if you caught how he got in the cage.
Wasn't all it was is one of those latches that goes over. It wasn't actually locked or anything, so he was able to just undo the latch.
Cool. Yeah. Who cares, right? No way in, no way out, unless you want to come, you want to go out. So Ric Flair gets in the ring, he grabs the chairs in the ring, he charges at Shawn, but Shawn just shits all over him. He grabs the chair, knocks them both out, knocks out Triple H, knocks out Flair. Then Shawn just begins to assault Ric Flair, throws him into the cage. I mean, Ric Flair is in an arena with a steel cage. He's by God, he's gonna get thrown into it and he's gonna bleed. He just can't help himself. Yeah, I think he bled more than anybody else on this show. I mean, he was
when they're helping him off from ringside, his hair is just matted with blood. It's just crazy.
Yeah, every square inch of his face was red. And then, oh, by the way, this did kind of annoy me here. Shawn and Flair are going at it in the corner of the ring. Shawn's doing like the 10 punches in the corner, all while Triple H is sitting right in front of the open door. He could have just rolled backwards and won the match, but maybe he's just too out of it.
Yeah,
right?
Blood loss.
Sure. But yeah, so Triple H eventually gets back up, goes for the pedigree, but Shawn backdrops out of it, hits the sweet chin music, and then sets up a table. Shawn puts Triple H on the table, and then Shawn climbs to the top of the cage, splash off the cage through Triple H, through the table for the 1, 2, 3. So Shawn wins number 2 here. So we're all knotted up, and wouldn't you know it, that if necessary, number 3, this stage 3 is necessary. So we got a ladder match coming up. But yeah, as far as this cage match, what do you think of it?
Again, it was very entertaining. I like that. Like I said, I like that hope spot with the whole table situation and them coming off the top of the cage. Was Flair the MVP of the night, or is it just me? Because that guy,
He's bumping his ass off.
He bumped his ass off. He was moving around. He bled. He sacrificed everything. He was entertaining as hell in this match. Right. One thing I did like, and you don't see this anymore in cage matches, is the whole rubbing of the head, doing the cheese grater move with the head. They did it. Triple H did it to Shawn, and then Shawn did it to Nate because Nate has got to bleed. You know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was entertaining, and like I said, it wasn't super long, which totally expected after they just nearly killed each other in that other match. So it was good.
Do you think cage matches need blood to be effective?
Yes. Yeah, they do.
I would agree.
They do. And also, I'm a born and raised WWF guy, but I hate the whole escape the cage concept. I love the idea of you have to get a pinfall, and the whole point of the cage is to keep people inside and people out, and just using that cage as a weapon. I miss using the cage as a weapon. I think you do need blood in the cage match.
Yeah.
And you can't have cage matches as often as they do right now. It's just crazy. It's just overused. It just doesn't feel like anything special. This should be a blow off.
Because we saw it on Raw 30, which wasn't really a match, but it was a cage. We're going to get one on Raw. Was it next week?
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we got one this weekend on NXT, I think, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It's so overused. And why is it overused if you can't really use it to its true effectiveness? So I agree with you.
What'd you think of the angle on Raw 30 with Bailey and them just locking her in and beating her down? That felt like an old horseman angle.
I thought it's the best Damage Control has looked so far.
I agree. Yep.
I mean, they didn't lose a match, which is a plus, but they also, it's like they're really utilizing the numbers game. They seemed like a brutal, like cutthroat faction, and Becky was laying. So I thought it was fine. Yeah.
And they use the cage to their advantage.
Yes, exactly. That was the weapon. They didn't need to use other shenanigans within the cage. They used the cage as the weapon.
Yep.
So yeah, obviously, it would have been nice to see a full match, but we're getting it. And everything was rushed on that show anyways. So
yeah,
I feel like everything was getting cut. But speaking of cut, everybody's cutting this match. Everybody's bleeding. Stage number 3. Ladder match. So Shawn's specialty going into this. But at this point, both guys, I kind of mentioned this earlier, both guys are just spent, can barely stand, and really it's just who can get to the ladder first and climb it. This stage of the match is pretty short, but Shawn tries to suplex Triple H onto the ladder. I don't know if he missed the ladder or if Triple H at the last second was like, you know what, let's not land on this ladder. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, you were talking about the splat spot where Shawn does the splash from near the top of the ladder and just takes a Family Guy bump and just push. It's just gnarly. The sound it made was that was a good point. I think it might be the stiffer ring because it seemed
might be
particularly brutal. Triple H hits the pedigree onto Shawn, starts climbing the ladder, gets pulled off, sweet chin music. Shawn begins to climb. And I love the shot of it too, because you're watching his back from the back, climb the ladder. You see the crowd in the background. You see the title slowly come into frame. He's almost there, and then that damn ladder starts to tip over. Triple H pushes it over. Shawn goes crashing through all of the previously set up 4 tables on the outside. And this allows Triple H to go up there, grab the belt, and new world champion Triple H, and the reign of terror begins, I guess. But Yeah, good stuff here. Good stuff here, I thought.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're right. I think maybe the ladder match is 5 minutes, but it's all it needed to be. I love again Shawn selling, like even to start the match off, he's trying to put that ladder in the ring, and he's struggling even to do that, which gave them time to clear the ring out of the cage and all the other stuff as well. That splat spot was just unbelievably gross. I tell you, I missed the Wile E. Coyote cam, as Jerry Lawler calls it, that one from
Right.
above. That was always great. Um, and then just the drama of the whole climb up the ladder, and you don't see Triple H coming into frame. And you're right, they did such a good job of framing the title as well. I mean, it's so nice to watch a WWE event without 8 billion camera cuts going on.
Yep.
Although it's not near as bad now as it was prior to Vince leaving. And then the other thing I noted was how athletic is Shawn. Like, he goes through those tables, but he somehow manages to kick his legs up to avoid that table impaling him when it fell on him. And just the guy is just a magician out there. But this is peak Shawn at this point. Like, and literally, what's this third match back after being out for 4 years?
Yeah,
something like that.
Well, yeah, I think he had a match on Raw against Rob Van Dam.
Okay,
we're less than 5 for sure.
Yeah, a handful of matches basically that he's fought, and you can put it up against anybody on the roster at that point. So
yeah,
I thought the whole storytelling from this match, I know it took a while because of 3 matches, but it was fantastic. I could have watched it even longer.
No, yeah, these guys their matches are always good. And Shawn, even after, I feel like his career post back injury was way better than his pre back injury career, which I guess was longer, but still, I mean, the quality of stuff he was putting out there was amazing. We're only just getting started here.
Act 2 was better than Act 1.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's off to Evolution after this show. But that brings Armageddon to a close. Triple H is on top. All is right with the world, I guess. And A-Train's here. So any overall thoughts on Armageddon 2002? Anything we didn't cover?
No, nothing that we didn't cover. I thought it was a really good pay-per-view. I really enjoyed the show. I mean, you had your blips there with the whole Batista Kane, and the whole Dawn Marie Tori stuff was just absolutely loony. The women's match got cut a bit, but everything else made up for it. I mean, just everything. If you got a Benoit Eddie match in there, and you got Shawn and Triple H, what else do you need at that point? But we had some other good items, and basically the A-Train is the star of the show, and Ric Flair is the MVP.
We're on the fast track to success. Is that what you're telling me?
I see nothing but good things for A-Train coming up.
Oh boy, man! Don't watch WrestleMania 19.
Hey, A-Train, we're gonna. Have you met Nathan Jones yet? He's gonna be working with you.
Man, Matt Morgan too comes around, and we get that Haas faction. There is some real dog shit in 2003, but can't wait to cover it. That's a war I would like to wrestle with. But speaking of which, once again, thank you, BC, for taking the time to check out the show and come on and recap it. Where can everybody find you and the Wrestling with the Truth podcast, or Habit?
Both.
Wrestling
it's both.
Is it both? Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's that was a nice segue, as we like to call it on our show, with the Wrestling with the War. But yeah, so we like to keep it very confusing for our listeners and followers. So it is it is Wrestling with the War is our audio podcast. So it's on all audio platforms. That's where we're talking about the Monday Night War between WCW and WWF. We're starting right from the beginning, the first Nitro, and moving our way through. So we're into October of 1995 right now, and we're just about to review the vaunted Halloween Havoc 95 pay-per-view. That'll be our next episode.
Have fun with that one.
Yeah, I believe you've done that one before, have you not?
Somewhat recently.
Oh God. And we're just covering all the episodes in October leading up to this, and In Your House 4 at this point. We just had the Shawn Michaels jumped by 10 guys in the parking lot incident, right?
With guns, right? Yeah.
With guns, yeah. They're all Marines. They're, the ultimate fighting crew is what kicked his ass. So yeah, so that's what we're doing on the audio side. On the visual side, we have our YouTube channel, which is Wrestling with the Truth. Still, that's where we just do kind of random stuff, different things. We did a live stream with the boys from Smack Raw podcast this past week. It was real fun. We just throw some things up like predictions, reviews, different things like that. We're trying to stay more with the current product on that, and the whole Wrestling with the War is the old product. So if you want to come on over there, make sure you're subscribed. We try to put some stuff out weekly. And like I say, we're trying to get more into the live streams. We're going to definitely have you on there, Kyle, at some point to talk some wrestling as well. Other than that, go on to Twitter or whatever. And it's WWTT Pod for Twitter. You can find me at BC Hunter, WWTT. And Facebook is Wrestling with the Truth as well, and Instagram and all that stuff. But you'll find us. Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. You guys are smart. You can do it.
Yeah, they listen to the show. They can't be that intelligent. But yeah, you do the old, the new, and you're the second best at trivia. So like, what else is there to say about it?
That was an epic battle. It'll go down in the annals of history, or maybe the annals of history. I don't know, but it's going to go down in something.
It's going down in my anus, that's for sure. Once again, thank you to BC Hunter from the Wrestling with the War podcast and also the Wrestling with the Truth podcast. Follow him, follow Jay, follow the podcast. Do it all right now. Fucking do it. All their info in the old deal below the description, or maybe it's above. I don't know what platform you use. Do that. Follow them. They're good boys. Follow me too. I'm also a good boy. Daddy. At Apron Bump on everything. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. What else? You know where to find me, right? You've made it this far. Odds are you probably know it wherever I am at all times. So I think that about wraps it up. I think this podcast is coming to a close, I guess you could say.
The end is here.
Right? Who's with me, folks? It's the theme song of the event. But that's about all Daddy has for you today. So I think I'm gonna split. Gonna go get a slutty pump. Gonna go pet my cats and maybe stick a finger up my ass or something. I don't know. But with that, I bid you adieu. Good night. Or the fuck, I don't know. What does Kenny Omega do? This stupid shit. Mwah. You know? I'm a sleepy boy. Get the hell out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening. I truly love you all. I'm hard.
Yeah.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing I guess. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing I guess.